All right. Let's move over to the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes.
So this time, again, I will be introducing my team.
Okay.
There was some names here.
Whew. Yeah, I tell you what, let me just, for the Vikings, you could argue, well, certainly they have the best all-time team for a franchise who's never won a Super Bowl. I don't know that that's even a question.
Absolutely.
Amazing all-time team here with a couple rooms, especially that are absolute fire.
Yes, absolutely. Alrighty. So quarterback, I think this was a pretty easy choice. I went with Fran Tarkenton. Played primarily there. So in the 60s and 70s. Hall of Famer, two-time All-Pro, and he was the kind of original scrambling quarterback. That we see. His game was very much like Patrick Mahomes, but 50, 60 years ago.
I grew up on Tarkenton. I love Tarkenton, the second stint with the Vikings.
Yeah.
And he retired as the all-time passing leader, in yards, touchdowns, and he retired as the all-time rushing leader among quarterbacks. Yeah. So he had it all when he retired.
A man ahead of his time. All right. I went with one running back, 3 wide receivers, and a tight end. So kind of a traditional, a little more traditional grouping here. So my running back, slam dunk choice, that's Adrian Peterson, one of the best running backs of all time. Won an MVP in this era as a running back, which is an incredible achievement. A ton of all pros. He has rushed for almost 2,100 yards in 2012, but not much depth behind him there at the running back group for Minnesota in terms of overall accolades. For my wide receivers, I went with 3 guys. So Randy Moss, one of the GOATs. I know he wasn't there that long, but long enough to have five-time Pro Bowls, or 5 Pro Bowls, 3-time first-team All-Pro. Just one of the best players in NFL history, period, not just best receivers. Then second receiver, I went with Chris Carter. Credit to him for reinventing himself after his start with the Eagles. Also a Hall of Famer. 3-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler. Just all he does is catch touchdowns. That's what he says, right? And then I went with an active guy for my third wide receiver, and that's Justin Jefferson, who's been there since 2020, but he's already been an Offensive Player of the Year, already been a All-Pro 3 times. I know it's very early to call, but I think he's already getting fitted for a gold jacket, and just one of the best players in this era, and his numbers stack up, obviously. In context, he is just an incredible player all around. And then for my tight end, I went with Steve Jordan, played there from 82 to 94. Not an All-Pro, but a 6-time Pro Bowler in an era where, alternates weren't really a thing as much as they are now. So that's a notable,
a real achievement. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Had 6,300 career yards, which is for a tight end. That is excellent, again, in that era. In the early 80s to the mid 90s. So who did you have for your skill guys?
That's Steve Jordan's an excellent choice. I didn't go with him just because I went with 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. So we have exactly the same 3 wide receivers: Moss, Carter, Justin Jefferson. But my running back 2 is Chuck Foreman. Chuck Foreman was a 3-time All-Pro. He played for the Vikings in the 70s when they were really good and just falling short. 3-time All-Pro. He finished second in MVP vote, he finished in the top 5 in MVP voting twice. He was an amazing running back. He was the Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1973 as well. So he's my running back 2. And then I went with the 3 wide receivers and no tight end at all. But otherwise, we're the same.
Yeah, very, very well aligned. Alrighty, for my offensive line, for my tackles, I went with Gary Zimmerman, who is a Hall of Famer, and Ron Yeri, also another Hall of Famer. So Zimmerman played in the late 80s, early 90s, and Ron Yeri played from the late 60s to the early 80s. For my guards, I went with Randall McDaniel, which is a great name, from 88 to 99, also a Hall of Famer, 9-time All-Pro, between 7-time first team, which I think is important to note.
Amazing.
11 straight Pro Bowls. So one of the just best offensive linemen in NFL history with those accolades. And then my other guard, I went with Ed White, played there from 69 to 77. So 3-time Pro Bowler there as well. And then for my center, I went with Mick Tingelhoff. So another Hall of Famer, played there again in those really good Vikings teams in the 70s, played there from 62 to 78. So a lot of longevity. He started 240 consecutive regular season games as an interior lineman in that era without the benefit of modern medicine, 5-time first team All-Pro and also a second team All-Pro. So this is a pretty stacked group, I will say, at offensive line.
No doubt. And I've got four of the same five. I went with, instead of Ed White, I went with Steve Hutchinson, who was
more recent guy.
Who was also with the Vikings. He's a 7-time All-Pro for his entire career, a 3-time All-Pro, 3-time first-team All-Pro with the Vikings. So you've got, when you talk about all-time offensive lines, Herman, McDaniel, Hutchinson, and Tingelhoff, 12, 15, 16, 17, 24 first-team All-Pros with the Vikings across those 5 guys. So that's that group and the wide receiver group, and we've got one more group coming that is that you could say is all-time position room for that you could match up against any team in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean the running back, it's a little top heavy, but you put, again, it's not that deep, but you put AP against just about anybody in the NFL, and then Fran Tarkenton for his era, one of the all-time greats.
Such a strong team. Such a strong team.
And then defense. On defensive line, this was very hard.
Just finagle upon finagle for me.
Yeah, exactly. So I went with a 5-man front. For the defensive line. It seems like you did as well. For my edges, I went with Jared Allen, one of my favorite players to watch during his peak. Yeah, it's rare that you see a guy of his caliber moving teams, but it happened when he went from Kansas City to Minnesota. In the season that he had 22 sacks, I don't understand how he did not win Defensive Player of the Year. I had to look back. I'm like, I know Terrell Suggs won it, but I'm like, maybe just it was a team award because he's on the Ravens. But
that might have been it.
Yeah, but he's a Hall of Famer, 3-time first team All-Pro just with the Vikings, not counting his time in Kansas City, I believe in Carolina as well. I bounced around a bit, but he had 85.5 sacks in 6 years in Minnesota. My other defensive end, I went with Carl Eller, played there from 64 to 78, also a Hall of Famer, 7-time All-Pro, one of the Purple People Eaters, just one of my favorite nicknames. Just
one of the best position group names there is.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then for my 2 defensive tackles, so again, I had 3 guys on the interior. I went with John Randall, undersized, just an absolute bulldog of a pass rusher. He's kind of Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald with the interior pass rush. As an undersized guy, I think he was like 6'1", 280, 290 maybe. That's what he was listed at. Also a Hall of Famer. And then Alan Page was my other defensive tackle, played there in the 60s and the 70s, and also Hall of Famer. Defensive Player of the Year, Mount Rushmore type guy, I think, as an interior defensive lineman.
Tackle,
and then I went with a little more recent guy as my nose tackle. I went with Kevin Williams.
Thank you very much.
5-time first team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler. Half of what they called the Williams Wall with him and Pat Williams, who unfortunately I did not have space for on this defensive line. But with these guys, some of the other guys they've had, Daniil Hunter, I think Everson Griffin. I'm sure I'm forgetting other names, but you can put their defensive line against the Rams, against
any
group, even just guys from the 70s alone. Steelers.
I don't know. I can't imagine. I don't know a better defensive line group than this one because the depth is insane. Like I have Jared Allen as an honorable mention on mine.
Yeah.
Jared
totally
Allen
fair.
is a Hall of Famer who's top 10 all time in sacks, and he is not on this line for me, and I've got 5 guys.
Wow. Yeah, so, I believe it.
Yeah, so that's how deep it is. So you got, I also have Kevin Williams, 5-time first team All-Pro. Alan Page is one of my favorite players of all time. First of all, he's the first defender to win the MVP. In 1971, he won the MVP. He was the first defender to do it. What people don't talk about much is that Carl Eller in 1969 finished 3rd. So he finished 3rd in MVP voting in 1969, and then Alan Page turns around and wins it, and Defensive Player of the Year in 1971. On Randall with his 6 first-team All-Pros. I also have him in the interior. Carl Eller. The one I have different than he was Chris Dolman, who's also a Hall of Famer.
I forgot to mention him, yeah.
So they've got, on this front, they've got 5 Hall of Famers and a guy who, in my opinion, is the biggest snub, Hall of Fame snub there is right now in Kevin Williams, who has only finished in the semifinals for the Hall of Fame voting once this past season with a 5-time first-team All-Pro. But that line is untouchable. There is not another line, I don't believe, that's got as much depth and as much quality as that line.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't finagle Jared Allen into a linebacker position.
You know what? I mean, it would have to be a lot because their secondary is good too. So it's this, But I did go with a 5-2. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I did as well.
Yeah,
linebackers not so great. So I went with 2 linebackers. So Matt Blair played there from 74 to 85, 2-time All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler. Again, that is an achievement in that era. And then I went with Scott Studwell, played there from 77 to 90. He is the leading tackler in franchise history. I know the tackle stats aren't the most reliable.
Yeah, and they
from era to era.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the same thing as sacks. I guess we don't talk about it as much, but tackle stats are, I think, only from maybe the 80s or late 80s, early 90s forward. So we don't know how many tackles Jack Lambert had, for example.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not the most reliable stat, but I mean, when you have, I think, close to 2,000 tackles, that's quite an achievement.
Yeah,
you played there for 14 years.
No doubt.
So did you have the same linebackers?
No, I had Matt Blair, but then I have Jeff Seaman, who played alongside. He was their middle linebacker in the 70s, played alongside Matt Blair, and was also a 4-time Pro Bowler. So for me, Matt Blair and Jeff Seaman.
Yeah, I had Eric Kendricks as an honorable mention, and he was really good for them. I think he had 1 All-Pro season for them, but wasn't there for that long. And then the defensive backs, went with 4 defensive backs. So my corners, I went with Bobby Bryant, played there from 67 to 80, 2-time Pro Bowler, 51 career interceptions. Then with a more recent guy for my other corner, in Xavier Rhodes, who was a first-team All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowler, really physical corner in this era, and I think he stands out even in an era with some strong defensive backs. And then I went with Paul Krause as my free safety, who is the NFL's all-time career leader with 81 interceptions, just an absolutely bonkers number.
Yes.
Considering, he played for a decent amount of time, but not like 30 years or something. But he's a Hall of Famer, 4-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler. And then for my strong safety, I went with Harrison Smith, so another more recent guy who I believe just recently retired.
Right.
But 2-time All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, and just, one of the great players in the modern NFL.
Yeah, in terms of those interceptions, I love the Paul Krause. It's interesting that Paul Krause and Harrison Smith are for the same franchise.
Yeah.
Paul Krause, 81 career interceptions. Harrison Smith, before he retired, he was the active leader in interceptions with 36.
Yeah.
The active career leader in interceptions with 36, Paul Krause had 81. That's how much the game has changed. So that's another record. Like Favre's interception record will never be broken. Neither will Paul Krause's. No one's going to get 81 interceptions.
Yeah, because guys aren't throwing 20, 30 interceptions.
No, you don't get enough opportunities. So it's just not going to happen. So we have got 2 different here. I've got Bobby Bryant. I went with Carl Lee as my other corner. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He was a first-team All-Pro 1 time. So I've got him as my other corner. Paul Krause, of course. But then the other safety, and this is, Harrison Smith, I've learned from my couple of years here on social media that Harrison Smith fan base is it's a diehard fan base.
Yeah.
So they're going to be mad when I say that Joey Browner is ahead of him. He's a 4-time All-Pro. He was, I think he's a Hall of Fame snub, and actually he's got a better Hall of Fame case, in my opinion, than Harrison Smith does. I know the crux of his case, Harrison Smith's case, is the number of interceptions and the number of sacks. He's got the combination of the 2 is rare. Like maybe 2 or 3 guys have as many sacks and interceptions at defensive back that Harrison Smith does.
Like a Troy Polamalu type numbers.
He's often compared to Troy because he's got more. I believe he might have more interceptions and sacks than Troy, but Troy obviously was a defensive player of the year. Troy was at least 4-time first-team All-Pro and maybe a 6-time All-Pro, something like that. He's got accolades. He's got more accolades than Harrison Smith. But Joey Browner was an amazing player in that 80s time frame, and it's stunning to me that he's not getting more Hall of Fame consideration.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I've got him as my safety, safety 2, let's say. So that puts Harrison Smith as an honorable mention.
Yeah.
And again, no disrespect to Harrison Smith. I think that Krause and Browner were better.
All right. And then head coach Bud Grant. I think it's a pretty easy choice.
No conversation there.
Yeah, just all-time great head coach. And then I think recently they showed him at like that Ice Bowl game, the recent Ice Bowl game, and it was like 9 degrees out or something. And he walked out in a polo shirt.
And I love, it's a topic for another podcast, but so all of these teams are giving away their home field advantage by building domes in cold weather places. And I love the fact that the Bills refused to do that. They said, look, part of our home field advantage is people don't like to play in this, and we can play in this. We've got an outdoor stadium. But Kansas City, I believe, is going to have a dome stadium. Cleveland is going to have a dome stadium.
I think Chicago, too.
The Bears may end up with a dome stadium. And one of Bud Grant's things was, he didn't allow his players to have heaters on the sidelines. He's like, that was part of those 60s and 70s teams that were amazing, that had this great home field advantage. Part of that home field advantage was the toughness that they conveyed by playing in this cold weather when nobody else wanted to. And one of the things I hate for Vikings fans is that they won the NFL championship in 1969, but it doesn't count as an NFL championship because the Super Bowl was played after that. They went on to lose Super Bowl IV, right? If they had won that championship in 65, they'd be considered having a title. But because, starting with 66, you've got NFL championships and then you've got Super Bowls. So they were the best team in the NFL in 1969, but they're still considered as never having won a championship.
Which is a remarkable considering the talent that we've seen. Maybe the issue was just not having that talent at the same time, and then they went through, some lulls here and there.
The 98, I'm sure for a Vikings fan, that 98 season where they were 15-1, Gary Anderson hasn't missed a kick all year, misses a kick in the NFC Championship game, and then they go on to lose to the Falcons, who go on to get blown out by the Broncos that year.
Yeah, so that's probably their best chance.
That's got to be the one that haunts them the most.
Yeah, but I definitely that is a topic about the cold weather and home field advantage, definitely for another podcast, because I think we feel a little differently.
Oh, okay. Yes, let's talk about that.
I'll just touch on it quickly. That you say that the other teams don't want to play in that cold up in Buffalo. I don't think the Buffalo Bills want to play in that cold weather either. And speaking of Aaron Rodgers and this division, I wonder if they played in a dome stadium, maybe he'd have a couple more Super Bowls, because some of those games were just total freak weather situations where you're losing a playoff game to Jimmy Garoppolo because your punter can't get a kickoff because it's 10 degrees out or whatever it is.
Let's have that debate. Let's have that debate.
We'll figure out how to frame it. But I think I'm with you with the old school. I love it, but I feel like these days, I think you need a dome if you want to compete. All right, this was a lot of fun. We spent an hour and a half. I think we could have gone for another hour and a half if we kept digging on some of these teams. Up next, we'll do the AFC South. I think
let's do it.
Move down. We did the AFC North. We'll do the NFC North. Next time we'll do AFC South. So we're going from like the oldest division in the NFL to, I guess, the youngest, with a lot of these baby teams.
Gotta be, yes.
With a couple expansion franchises. I think the Texans was 2001. So
Texans and Jags are in this division. So expansion-ish. Then you've got the Titans, who were the Oilers, so they've got a little bit more history. And then, of course, Indy goes back to the Baltimore Colts in the early 50s.
All right. And so where can folks see and hear more of your content?
Well, wherever you are on social media, look up Football Fanstorian, and you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, and on YouTube.
Awesome. And you can see more of my content at the 4040 Vision Sports, again, also on all the major platforms. And again, this is the Football Elevated podcast, so a little offshoot of both of our brands, so to speak. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Make sure you hit that follow, like, and subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mack. Appreciate you.
Thank you.